Hey, Birdland, welcome in to the latest edition of Birdland Territory. Steve Melewski, Tim Barbalace, and former O's All-Star Brad Brach as we're rolling on with another show. And this time we had at least a day to catch our breath. The Monday off day, we're taping this Tuesday morning in advance of the start of the Orioles-Houston series at Oriole Park. So, guys, we thought a great idea would be to kind of take an overview of, 40,000 foot view here of where the Orioles are right now. 13-15 overall. They've lost 8 of 12. We all know a lot has to get better. We've discussed it numerous times on this show, but we thought we would start with Oriole surprises and disappointments, whether it's a player or team aspect. And I'm going to let you guys get rolling here, but I mean, there's just so many candidates on both sides. Leody Taveras, remarkable. Jeremiah Jackson, remarkable. Nunez, we could go on the surprises. There have been several. There's been disappointments team-wise and individuals. We know Alonso's got to get going, some others. And so, Brad, where do you go from here when you think about Oriole surprises and disappointments through 28 games?
Yeah, for me, I look at Rico Garcia. To me, obviously, I'm going to go to a bullpen guy, and he's been one of the top ones. And you look at his numbers, and his numbers on the sheet are great. And then when you dive into StatCast a little bit too, his numbers are top of the league, top 1% of Major League Baseball across the board. Whether you want to look at, expected WOBA, all these crazy stats they have, but he's right there. So it's not like it's been he's been getting lucky with all his hard contact. He's only given up one hit all season. Unfortunately, it was a home run, but that's part of it. It's kind of been a crazy start for him, and it's great to see him get off to such a great start and really bolster this bullpen early on in the season.
He's been fantastic, Brad. And it's funny when we're doing this exercise, you could really rattle off so many names with the bullpen, and we won't really get to all of them. Yennier Cano, I think, deserves a ton of shine coming off last year in which he ended up getting sent down because he was struggling so much. But he looks back to his all-star caliber form, or at least a 2024 form. But it's funny. You think of Rico Garcia and how he's really emerged as a true high leverage arm for this team. And then I think that the other guy that comes to mind immediately is Anthony Nunez. And, one of our first shows that we ended up doing, I know we talked a lot about him that day and just what a crazy story it is, a former two-way player and someone that was not expected to make this club out of spring training. He ended up getting optioned to minor league camp down in Sarasota, and injuries happened. Kittredge and Keegan Aiken, they started the year on the IL, so it opened up a couple spots. And Anthony Nunez, he's made the most of it, guys. What's crazy, he played in 16 games at the AAA level. He pitched a whopping 66 2/3 innings in his minor league career, Brad. And here he is making his debut at the beginning of this season, 16 strikeouts and 13 1/3 innings, just 3 walks, a 1.35 ERA, and he recorded his first save last week in Kansas City.
Yeah, and his demeanor on the mound is, you would think the guy has 10 years in the league. He got his first save, and it was like you wouldn't know if he was pitching an exhibition game or in the 9th inning of a big league game. So to me, that's what's really stood out, is not just his stuff, which is elite, and he's pitching really well, but just his demeanor out there. It just makes you think he's going to continue having the success that he's had. And Steve, just talking about the offensive side, we're talking about Taveras and Jackson. I mean, I don't know where this team is without these guys, with some of the big hits they've had, and just kind of stepping up here. 2 games under 500. I mean, without some of the hits they've had, we're looking 5-6 games under 500, just specifically from them. So I think that's been such a bright spot for this offense so far. And they're going to probably come back to the mean a little bit, but that's when you hope Alonso and Henderson, and that's when the big names start kind of get going and pick up the offense from there. But I really don't know where this team would be record-wise without those 2 guys getting going early on in the season.
Exactly. And the outfield defense has been so shaky that Leody's a plus defender. And if he's going to hit, it's hard to keep him out, because now he's bringing you both sides of the ball here. But you're right. Some regression has got to be expected when his OPS is 841. It's so far advanced from what he's done. Last year was 530, career 651. So, I mean, he's 200 points over what you would expect. Now, that maybe he's made gains, that 840 settles at 720 or 30. That's still not solid OPS for a guy who can bring plus defense. So Leody Taveras a so-called fringe signing, you didn't sign him to a big dollar thing, has proven to have great value for this club so far.
Well, I think both of their emergence have come at such a critical time, guys, just considering Tavares, Colton Cowser, he's gotten off to a tough start to the season. There's no way around it. And really, over the past couple of weeks, he's sort of been used as if he's a part-time player. So Tavares emerging as basically their everyday center fielder has been massive. Obviously, Jackson Holiday, he would have hoped that he would have been back by now. The team would have hoped that he would have been back by now. But we talked about it on a prior episode. These hamate surgeries, you just never know. And it's taken longer than Jackson's would have wanted. But thankfully, Jeremiah Jackson has really stepped up in a big, big way. And I continue to harp on it, guys. I know he had an error on Sunday, but on the whole, he's been a really solid defender at second base.
Exactly, Tim. And across town, the Ravens sort of have this next man up theory. That's certainly true in baseball too. And as you noted, there was an opening for Jeremiah Jackson. He jumped at it. There was an opening for Nunez. I mean, something happens to other players, injury or poor performance, whatever, opens the door for others. And Brad, you've probably been through that on a time or two in your career.
Yeah, and I love stories like this when guys take an opportunity in season. To me, that's really all a major league career is. It's an opportunity, and you kind of run with it. You just never know when it's going to happen, and you just hope that you're ready when it happens. But whether it's an unfortunate injury or underperformance, just seeing guys step up to the plate and really seize jobs is what I love seeing. And that was part of the thing in Baltimore. It was, you had the guys at the back end of the bullpen, you had the big stars, but it was a bunch of other guys that stepped up when you didn't expect it. And that's what made our teams that were good so great, is that we just had these kind of unexpected guys show up and not just play well for a month or two, but for 6 months long. And it really just kind of jump-started everything, and it allowed your superstars to have these bad stretches because you had these other guys step up and kind of carry the load for a little bit. And I think that's what you need for a 162-game season.
And I think that's kind of another segue into my combo platter of surprises. And that's Cade Povich and Brandon Young. And I think those guys deserve a ton of credit. Now, they've only started a combined 4 games for this club, but I was super high on this starting rotation coming into the year, and I still believe the best is yet to come for that starting 5. But right now, it's been a tough start to the season for the majority of those guys. And when Cade Povich and Brandon Young have been called upon because of injuries, and Zach Eflin, unfortunately for him, he underwent Tommy John surgery after his first start of the season. Povich, just starting with him, he pitched right before our first ever episode when the O's were taking on the Pirates, and Chris Bassett had a really tough outing. I think he only went 2 innings in that game, and Cade Povich, he came in relief when it looked like he might start that Monday. Went 5 2/3 innings there. Only gave up 2 earned runs, and then he started against the Giants, went 6 2/3 innings, giving up 1 earned run. And then Brandon Young, where now he's back into the rotation. Dean Kramer, he's on the IL. Mike Elias said that he's going to miss several weeks. Young had that start in Chicago where he was extremely pitch efficient, went 5 shutout innings and just 66 pitches. And then you look at his last start earlier, or last week, excuse me, against the Red Sox, where he went 5 2/3 against the Red Sox and gave up 3 earned runs, kept the Orioles in the game.
Yeah, when I think about those two guys, I think about we've kind of talked on the show just a little bit of struggles of command on the normal 5 starters. Those guys, to me, their command has been the best of the entire staff so far to this point, and it kind of just harps on the point again that, I mean, without those couple starts they've had, without the surprises that we've had, I mean, where does this team stand in the standings? And I think it's kind of a silver lining thing. This season could be way different looking than it is now. I know it's not exactly where fans want it, and they're 2 games under 500, but without some of these surprises here, I mean, you're looking 5, 6, 7 games under 500, and that's a tough gap to kind of climb up there and get yourself back in the playoffs. So I think without those guys and the surprises we've talked about, this season could be very bleak looking very fast.
So there have been disappointments too, as we know, or else you're not 13 15 as the Orioles are. We will get into those in a moment here on Birdland Territory.
We love our dog Bella, who's really just a couch cushion in our house. And you would do anything for her. A quick message from today's sponsor, the ASPCA Pet Health Insurance Program. If you've ever been frantically searching what to do for an issue with your pup, you are not alone. The program offers customizable accident and illness plans, making it easier to get your pet the care they need. When you enroll in an ASPCA Pet Health Insurance plan, you could get a $25 Amazon gift card. It's a little treat for you while you're doing something great for your pet. To explore coverage, visit aspcapetinsurance.com/foul. That's aspcapetinsurance.com/FOUL. Eligible restrictions apply. Visit aspcapetinsurance.com/Amazon terms for more info. This is a paid advertisement. Insurance is underwritten by either Independence American Insurance Company or United States Fire Insurance Company and produced by PTZ Insurance Agency Limited. The ASPCA is not an insurer and is not engaged in the business of insurance.
Birdland Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network here. Glad you joined us today on YouTube. Hope you'll subscribe to our channel and keep us going and growing. So, guys, on the disappointment for me, I mean, obviously individuals we could point out, Pete Alonso way under his norm. Colton Cowser, 511 OPS, too much swing and miss right now. He knows it. For me, defense is going to top this list, and it's not just a disappointment. It's a big disappointment. So much attention to detail in camp. So many things looked better. Fundamentals were going to be better. Attention to detail was going to be better. Then the season started, and it hasn't happened. In defensive statistics like team defensive runs saved, team outs above average, Fangraphs overall team defensive rankings, the Orioles are 21, 22, 23. And that's where they're ranking right now. They're in the bottom third of baseball. Now, can you overcome that and win? Yes. If the offense is scoring 5 runs a game, if the rotation's pitching better, if Bradish and Rogers look like Bradish and Rogers, all of a sudden the ills of defense can be overcome. But if that doesn't happen, that puts more pressure on the defense in my mind. And I think how this plays out in the next 130 games is going to have a lot to say with where they go from here. How about
I think you're right,
disappointments
Steve.
for you guys?
I think, when you're playing a lot of close games like they have early in this year, you can kind of gloss over some of those mistakes and they don't really rear their ugly head. But when you're playing these close games and all these tight ball games they've been playing, it just kind of at the end of the game, you look back and you're like, man, if they only made that one play, if they turned the double play here, and it's not these huge mistakes. It more so seems not getting the lead out, which ends up leading to a run, or just certain things that have been happening so far this season. It just kind of rears its ugly head and it leads to losses, unfortunately.
Yeah, the two biggest concerns that a lot of Orioles fans had coming into the year were bullpen, and I've been really wrong about the bullpen. The bullpen's been the best part of this team so far this season, but the defense. And I think my concern is, guys, I just wonder how much this can improve over the course of the season, because at the end of the day, these guys are who they are. And I think that they can certainly tighten things up. I'm not, dismissing that fact. But for the majority of these guys, they're not exactly known as plus defenders. And Steve, you brought up Leody Taveras, and of course, he's a really good defender in center field. But there really aren't many Gold Glove caliber guys on this roster. And I think it's a lot of the instances in which plays aren't ruled as errors. For example, a couple of plays yesterday, Taylor Ward, there was a situation in left field. It was a 95% catch probability. He ended up getting turned around, heading towards that jut in the left field wall, but that was ruled a hit. Dylan Beavers had a situation in center field on Sunday where the ball got beyond his glove, ended up giving the runner an extra 90 feet, turned a double into a triple. It's those type of plays that are really difficult. I still have faith in the offense bouncing back. I have faith in the starting pitching bouncing back some, but unfortunately, I just think that this is going to be an issue for this club, just considering the makeup of it.
Yeah, might be. And I mean, you're right, Tim, they got to tighten it up. Gunnar, I say, is a plus defender. Adley, I say, is a plus defender. Leody, Cowser in the corners can be. After that, you have to see. You hope Jackson's improvement is real. He had a recent error. These other things can overcome that. Toronto, I think I'm not wrong here. They were like 10th in the American League in pitching last year. So you don't have to be top 3 or 4 in every stat across the board to be a winning team. Some teams are. Right now, the Yankees are pitching well and hitting well, and that's why they're starting to open some gaps here. So the Orioles have to find ways to take these underperforming elements and get a couple of them going. And Brad, there's plenty of time. We're going to get into that later in the show, exactly what we mean when there's plenty of time, with a specific example of one of your former teams. And Tim had a great point in our little text exchange amongst ourselves that we're going to bring to the show here in a few minutes. But what about pressure the players? Are they feeling it right now, or is it too early for that, or is it never too early for some of that?
I think it's a little bit too early. I think they at least have not lost the season. I've always, as I went through seasons, I felt like you could lose the season in April, but you can't win it. And it's one of those things where you just don't want to fall too far behind, because now you're playing catch up, and you get in July where it just gets tougher. It gets harder every day to go out there and perform at the level that you're used to performing. And I feel like they haven't fallen enough behind to say, oh man, it's done. They got no shot to come back. So that's the positive I'm taking in this regard. And I don't think the players are feeling the pressure yet. I think you start pushing closer to 7-8 games under 500, and now you're 10 games behind the Yankees in the division. I think that might be when you start to feel the pressure a little bit, like we need to get this going now. But I don't think it's at that point yet. And I don't think the players are quite feeling it as much as maybe the fans might be feeling at this point.
Brad, I want to touch on a guy in particular, though, Pete Alonso. And we know that Pete's not off to the start that he hoped for. And heck, I can still think back to that press conference a couple of weeks ago where you could see how emotional he was. And it seemed like he was starting to turn the corner. He had that big double down the line that drove in a couple runs. He had the go-ahead home run and that crazy comeback against the Diamondbacks. But Pete's scuffling, he's batting below the Mendoza line a full month into the season, 196 batting average, 637 OPS, and 3 home runs to 10 RBIs. And guys, I pulled his 28 game average, because that's how many games the O's have played so far, his 28 game average through 2019 through 2025. And he traditionally gets off to hot starts. 881 OPS is his average first 28 games of the season. 8 home runs, 22 RBIs. Brad, you were in Baltimore from 2014 through 2018, and I know things were funky, obviously, at the trade deadline, but so it's not a like for like. But Pete spent, his career in New York and coming over here. How difficult is that? A player in a new organization, obviously you want to hit the ground running. Obviously you want to make a great first impression. And Pete got the mega contract, the biggest long-term contract given out by this organization since Chris Davis. And that's been a while. So what is that like from a player's perspective?
Yeah, I think he's putting a lot of pressure on himself. He's putting a lot of pressure of the fan base. He's putting a lot of pressure of the organization. When they invest that kind of money in you, he knows, he's talked about it in his press conference. He knows what they expect, and he's not playing up to that standard right now. And I'm sure the added pressure of himself is worse than any of the other pressure that's coming around. He wants to perform at the level of player he knows. And it's tough. I think when you go from your first organization, he only knows the New York Mets is the team he played for. So anytime you switch organizations, it takes a little bit of time. And I think when I first got traded over to Baltimore, I was in AAA for the first month. So I had a little bit of a time to adjust, and you kind of get a feel for what they expect of you, what the new organization's like. But when you sign a contract like that and you're a player like Pete Alonso, you don't have that luxury of going down to AAA to kind of ease yourself in. So I think it's just the pressure of the contract and the added pressure of himself, what he expects of himself. And I think it's just kind of one of those things where I thought I saw him kind of going from trying to make things happen and kind of letting them kind of come to him. And I feel like the last kind of weeks has been going back more towards like trying to just make things happen. And it's going to come. I just hope it happens in the next couple of weeks so he can kind of lay off of himself a little bit and know that the power didn't go anywhere. He's still the same player. He's just got a different uniform on, and it's way easier said than done. So I think it's just kind of the combination of all that stuff. And hopefully for Orioles fans, he gets going here and gets hot in May, and we know what the ballpark can do here in the summertime, and he's going to be hitting homers left and right. So I just hope that he gets going in the next couple of weeks and kind of just takes that pressure off himself, because he's still the same player. Nothing's changed.
Exactly. And, in terms of things like exit velocity, hard hit percentage, he is at 2025 levels. Bat speed, which was much discussed a couple weeks ago, the gap has lessened. He's almost where he was last year. K percentage is a little up. The production is the big thing. Obviously, fans know that. It's just way off. So Pete, hopefully, will find it soon. And we will find the rest of our show in a minute with an interesting take on one of Brad's teams and how we can sort of discuss the current team in relation to that. That's coming up on Birdland Territory.
Todd, Father, it's getting a little warm out. That means let's hit some concerts. Let's hit some baseball games. And where am I going to go to find those tickets? And if you want to sing the answer, you can.
We're going to see hey. Listen, ultimately, at the end of the day, it is getting warmer and people want to leave the house. And it's time to leave. Go see a ball game. And guess where you can find the best tickets, best spots, best places to go. SeatGeek's got it all, man. They got their red and their green signs letting you know what's good and bad, all that good kind of stuff. They make it really simple for you at the end of the day. For a guy like me who's running around, I just need 5 minutes. Bing, bang, boom. I got my seats.
Yeah, each ticket's rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. And, of course, the code for you, Territory10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code Territory10. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and then have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Thank you to SeatGeek, MLB's official ticket marketplace.
Tim, you had a great point the other day, text exchange amongst us, one of Brad's teams and relating it to the 2026 Orioles.
Yeah, I was just thinking when I was driving home from the station yesterday, just this team, you're trying to tread water right now. And I was thinking back to your playing days, Brad, and obviously that 2014 team is very beloved, the most successful Orioles team, making it to the ALCS since 2000. But that team at the end of May was just 500. And you guys ended up running away with the American League East, clinching it pretty early on in September. Just how important is it during this difficult stretch to just stay in the fight, just tread water? That way you can make it to the other side and go on a run like the 2014 team did.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's huge. It's just like you said, you're expecting the components of the team that you had originally to kind of just show up, and you expect certain numbers by the end of the year. And when things aren't going exactly how you think, you know it's going to come. So I think you look at that 2014 team, I was telling Steve before the show that I didn't get called up till May 1st. And when I got there, it was kind of the same thing. We'd have one good start and a good offensive game. We'd have a bad start and bad offensive game. And it just we just couldn't get on a roll, couldn't win 2 out of 3. We couldn't win 5 in a row. It was just kind of just staying right around 500. And we kept our, heads above water until June, and we caught fire. And I think we went on like a 2-month stretch where we didn't lose a series, and we just got things going. And there's some comparables when you look at it. I think this offense is pretty comparable. They have superstars like we had on that team. We had, talking with Steve before the show too, we had injuries. Matt Wieters was hurt May 1st, had to get Tommy John. You had Manny Machado, who missed half the season. And I think a lot of teams just assume that those guys were a part of that team for the entire year, and they weren't. We had some big injuries that happened, and we had guys step up. Steve Pearce is one name that came to mind. The guy might have been our best player on that team. It was amazing when guys like that step up. And I think the bullpen was very good that year, and it kept us in games even when starting pitching didn't go well. We had I pitched in long relief that year for a majority of the season, pitched 2 or 3 innings, and kind of just gave our offense a chance to get going. And I think when you look at this team and I look at this roster up and down, it can be very comparable. You have a good starting rotation that I think is going to be up towards the top when it's all said and done at the end of the season. This bullpen, to me, I don't see it going anywhere. I think they're going to stay right here. They have weapons up and down this entire bullpen, and the offense is going to show up. I'm clearly convinced watching this team that it just can't continue to go this way. And like you said, they're not out of it. They're right there around 500. You just got to wait for it to kind of get rolling. And when guys start feeling good and they feel good at the plate, they feel good on the mound, really good things can happen. So there's definitely not hope lost. And especially with the new playoff system, 89 used to be the number. And I think it's now shifted more towards 87, 86, 85 wins to get into the playoffs. And I think it sounds like, oh, it's only 3 or 4 games, but that's big over a long season, that, that the difference in wins there. So I think the hope's not lost at all. I think this team has a lot of talent. And I think if you can kind of stay right there, you just never know what can happen come June and July. And I'm excited to see what happens the rest of the way. But that was a great comparison. When I was thinking about that team, I went back, started looking at the numbers. I was telling Steve before the show, I think we were 43 and 39 at one point. So really not in a first place position, and just kind of got hot. And next thing you know, you looked at the stands, it was like 62 and 40. And we just got really hot there. And I can see this happening with this team.
And Brad, it's funny you bring up the bullpen of that team, which was unbelievable, especially after the deadline when Andrew Miller got brought in. But I can remember at the beginning of that year where Tommy Hunter, I remember he blew a couple of saves, and then Zach Britton made the transition to being a closer, and it was dynamite at that point.
Yeah, and it was like a lot of guys just kind of stepped up, like Tommy ended up playing a bigger role, but not as a closer. He was a mid-inning guy that every team needs, and it was a really cool camaraderie. And every time you hear these guys talk about this team, that's what you hear about. It's how every guy has each other's back. And I love hearing that stuff. And as a fan, you should be really excited about that kind of thing, because I don't think they're going to get too down. I don't think they're ever going to think they're out of it. We've seen some big comebacks. Yes, we wish they had kind of followed up with wins after that. But the fact that they're able to win those games when they're down late in games is an encouraging sign, because that doesn't go away. When you have fight like that in a team, it's going to be there for the entire season. And that's what we did a lot of times in 2014. We were behind late in games, and when the bullpen came in, we just didn't think we were going to let up a run. And I think that's kind of where this team is at. They don't think the lead's going to get extended when the bullpen gets in the game. And that's huge for an offensive from a mental standpoint.
What a fun team to watch and cover. 96 wins in the end. So hot in the second half. Nelson Cruz hit 40. Steve Pearce, 930 OPS. The pitching so good. And oh, by the way, one thing that team did, this team may not achieve. We'll see. I don't think. They led the American League in defensive runs saved. 3 Gold Glove winners, Hardy, Jones, and Markakis, man. When they could get it out, they got it. So a lot of great things in 2014. Great going down some reminiscing here with Brad about the 2014 Orioles. We'll get back to the 2026 version and wrap up this edition of Birdland Territory next.
Big Bad Morning Show. Vinny and Haney. Inside Access. Live on YouTube weekdays 6 till 6. Search Baltimore 105.7 The Fan. Subscribe for daily shorts right to your phone and never miss what you missed. 105.7 The Fan.
Great discussion of 2014. That was really fun, and we'll be doing some of that throughout the summer, of course. So here's a stat on the Oriole offense. I don't know if I'm overstating it, probably. So they rank very well in exit velocity and hard hit percentage. Where they don't rank well is barrel percentage. Well, what is that? That's defined as 98 miles an hour plus with almost a perfect launch angle, 26 to 30 degrees. So you're hitting the ball hard at the perfect angle. If you do that, you get it's called a barrel, and the Orioles are 19th in the majors in those. So they're not just crushing these balls like some of the top teams. When you hit a barrel, stats show your batting average is 500 and your slugging is 1,500. Those are damage. They do damage often. So maybe there's a fine line, guys, between hitting the ball hard, which they're doing, and really hitting the ball hard, which they're not.
Yeah, and I think, when I look at the roster, I'm looking at, Taylor Ward's homer numbers are down. Pete Alonso homers are down. But I just, they're going to be there. These guys are proven veterans. What their numbers are going to be, somewhere 25, 30 homers. It's what they've proven to do. So to me, that's the encouraging sign of that is I feel like that's got to turn up. And we know Camden Yards starts turning into a bandbox once May hits. I would see it in batting practice. April and May, these balls, are 10 rows deep, are a warning track. And once June comes around, it's, you got to get guys to hit ball on the ground, because when the ball goes up in the air, they're gone. So I think I'm hopeful that that's what's going to happen. And I think when you look at Taylor Ward and Pete Alonso, I can't imagine that their home run numbers stay where they're at, stay on this trend.
And Steve, you gave the numbers for Pete. He's top 5%, I believe, in MLB and average exit velocity and hard hit percentage. It's just not falling. It's just not leaving the yard right now. But I also think, Brad, you made a great point. When it seemed like Pete was getting out of it, he was walking a lot. Like, it seemed like he wasn't expanding the zone, and that was part of the reason why the bat speed was down. I remember Craig Albernaz talking about that. I just think Pete needs to get back to that point, and then hopefully you start seeing the results when you are squaring up those balls.
Yeah, completely agree. I think when he went through that stretch there, started hitting the ball the other way, he would take his hits the other way, he'd take his walks, and it kind of just gets you rolling. You get your confidence up, and that's I think the biggest thing is just the confidence is just they know it. They know what is expected of them. I just think the confidence is lacking just a little bit. You get a couple games where you're rolling, and that's why I was with the game on Friday. You just were like, this is it. This is the team we expected. The home runs, putting up these big numbers on the offensive side. And that's what you just kind of hope gets rolling, just 2, 3, 4 games. And then you can kind of make up for bad starts and bad pitching. And it kind of just gets rolling from there. And that's my biggest hope for this team moving forward.
Gentlemen, great show, if we don't mind saying so ourselves. I enjoyed this conversation. Big week for the Orioles, Birdland. Houston, they got to get it going here after Boston series. And the Yankees, the Bronx Bombers, the evil empires looming late in the week. We're going to be here to talk about all of it. Glad you joined us today. Please subscribe. Follow us on the podcast networks too. And for Brad and Tim, I'm Steve Melewski. We'll catch you next time on Birdland Territory.